borrow, yet disbursement is always delayed. Should our people at the counties not get their salaries on time? Putting in mind, the same revenue that you collect also comes from the same 47 counties. Why did you not even reduce 1 billion? Why 20 billion? It's still not really coming out that justifies all this.
That was the position of the PS, and I will tell you it was also my position, though not documented anywhere. But I will tell you that opinions are divided on this. If you engage with Parliament, they will tell you a different opinion. What we have done is to seek the proper legal opinion now from the government legal advisor, the Attorney General. And actually today I'd asked for a follow-up to that letter. I am sure by the end of the day I'll know whether AG has acted. If she will have not acted, I will call her personally so that we get off this matter. We have already made a provision for next week to make transfers to counties. We want to make transfers to counties. If the opinion will come positive, we will make the 32 billion thereabout.
Can you just...
Or the directive was to submit to Parliament amendments to the Division of Revenue Act 2024. And that is exactly what we have done. We have not reduced any share of revenue to counties. What we have done is to submit a proposal to the organ that has the power to do so, and that organ is Parliament, to amend the Division of Revenue to reflect the reduced revenues occasioned by the rejected finance bill.
Now, President William Ruto has announced a major administrative overhaul in Nairobi, directing that each of the constituencies be converted to sub-counties to enhance service delivery. Currently, there are 11 sub-counties compared to 17 constituencies in the city. This, Ruto noted, has over the years made it difficult for residents to access crucial services, hence the need to streamline it. Speaking when he met the officials of the National Government Administration in Nairobi, the head of state highlighted the challenges faced, especially by the youth, during the recruitment exercise into the security services.
Mimi nataka vile vile munisaidie jambo la tatu, kuondoa ufisadi kwa hii maneno. Mtu asikuje aseme okay, unajua mimi utoe hii ama ufanye ile ama ufanye hivi ndio upate hii ama ndio upate ile. Please. Naomba wazee, kina mama wa mtaa, elders wetu. Naomba bwana chief, assistant chiefs, munisaidie, muwe ni macho yangu. Mkiona mtu anauliza mwingine pesa, please, I will, ikishindikana tafuta namba yangu nitumie, kwa sababu hii ufisadi inatusumbua. Wakenya wakitaka kutafuta kitu kidogo, Mungu tu amesimama hapo, unajua mimi najulikana na fulani, mimi najua fulani, nitakupangia hii, nitakupangia ile, toa kitu. Please, nawaomba. Na nawaomba pia Wakenya. Na naomba pia vijana. Wewe kama unakubali kutoa pesa kwa huduma ya serikali ambayo wewe unajua haupasi kutoa pesa, wewe uko na makosa zaidi ya yule na kuitisha pesa. Tumesema ya kwamba vijana pia tuwa spread, wasikuje watu 10 ya familia moja. Nyinyi mtusaidie, at least family kuwe represented, family hii, family ile, family ile, family ile, ndio tuweze kujumuisha Wakenya wengi. Si mnajua hiyo mpango? Mtashindwa kutambua ni nani wa namna hii, si mtajua? Mnajua sio? Na nyinyi mtapanga vizuri mpaka tuwe na utaratibu mzuri mpaka iende laini. Na mimi nawaomba tafadhali, naomba tena, tusiweke siasa ya ukabila katika kazi hii. Tumekubaliana jameni? Watoto ni watoto wetu. Nyinyi ndio mnajua wale wanaishi katika vijiji zenu. Make sure that all the kids, all the children from your villages wanajumuishwa katika hii mpango, ndio tuweze tuende mbele pamoja.
Now, national government administration officers will play a crucial role in the restoration of the Nairobi River Basin, President William Ruto has said. In the initiative called Climate Works, which begins on October 1st, the government is committed to ensuring that Nairobi River becomes a commercial and recreational asset. The president said restoration of the Nairobi River Basin will boost the city's reputation as the country's capital and the global environmental capital, being the host of the United Nations Environmental Program.
Sasa tumekamilisha ile Northern Collector Tunnel. Itaanza maji itaanza kutirika hapa Nairobi this week. Mimi nataka tukubaliane na viongozi wa Nairobi. Kuna barabara zingine ndogo ndogo hapa Nairobi ambazo bado ni za matope, inasumbua wananchi. I want us to identify those ones. There is no way we can have in the capital city tuko na barabara matope all over the place. We must begin the process. You know, kuna vile tulikuwa tumepanga. Kuna sehemu nyingi hapa Nairobi bado kuna giza. Ile street lighting haijafika sehemu zingine. Kuna hapa Nairobi bado tuko na sehemu nyingi hakuna ile sewer line. So maji taka bado ina zunguka na kila mahali. So I'm going to sit down na the leaders wa Nairobi hii. Taita wabunge, niite wale wengine, tuketi chini na wao. Tukubaliane vile wao watachangia katika mpango wa kuboresha Nairobi. We identify the critical areas, mahali bado tuko na matatizo ya maji, mahali tuko na matatizo ya sewage, mahali barabara tunataka kurekebisha, mahali tunaweka street lighting, mahali tunapanga vile city itakuwa, because the city of Nairobi is the face of Kenya. And we must get it out, we must get it right in the city as we get it right all over the country. Sinamna hiyo. Stay focused on dealing with matters of fighting illegal alcohol, drug abuse, mihadarati na yale mambo yanasumbua wa Kenya kule mashinani. Number 2, make sure all our children are in school. Kila kijiji, you as the leaders, mkiona watoto siku ya shule bado wanazunguka huko mitaani, ask questions. Let us know what is the problem and let us facilitate so that all our children are in school. Let us deal with matters of health. Let us deal with matters of keeping Nairobi clean. And let us also assist with making sure that Nairobi is secure.
Now, apologies about the typos. It's not on the security officials meeting, but Ngao officials meeting. Now, elsewhere, Chief Justice Martha Koome has assured that swift measures are being taken to ensure the safety of court buildings, especially to protect judges, court officials, and staff while on duty. Speaking in Nairobi, Koome decried the current situation, calling for judges and workers under the judiciary to be safeguarded and given their professional independence according to the Kenyan Constitution.
Protects judicial independence, stating that the judiciary is subject only to the Constitution and the law and shall not be subject to the control or direction of any person or authority. Additionally, any benefits or conditions of service related to a judge's position, including their security, must not be varied to their disadvantage, particularly in retaliation for the lawful execution of their judicial duties. Security for judges is an accrued benefit that cannot be withdrawn whimsically. The act of withdrawing the security of a sitting judge following a judicial decision that displeased certain authorities is deeply concerning. It sends a cheering message to the judiciary and indeed to the public at large that those entrusted with upholding justice and safeguarding our rights can be intimidated, that judges can be bullied or retaliated against for their rulings. Such actions erode public trust in the independence of the courts. They also undermine the very foundation of our constitutional democracy and pose a risk to disregard of our institutions and descends to lawlessness. If dissatisfied with a judicial decision, the appropriate recourse is to appeal to a higher court. Indeed, we are aware that an appeal has already been filed and is waiting to be heard and determined. We caution, however, that retaliatory measures against a judge or judicial officers.
Meanwhile, reports emerged that the security detail of Justice Lawrence Mugambi has been withdrawn. This incident comes just 2 days after Judge Mugambi sentenced Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli to 6 months in prison for defying a court order to appear before the court on 7 occasions when he was summoned. Masengeli was required to appear before the judge to explain the whereabouts of 2 brothers, Jamil Longton and Aslam Longton, as well as activist Bob Njagi, who were mysteriously abducted during Gen Z youth protests by individuals who identified themselves as police officers.
The Judicial Service Commission calls upon all state actors, particularly the National Police Service, to immediately restore the security of Honorable Justice Lawrence Mugambi and fulfill their constitutional duty to respect and enforce the decisions of the courts. We also urge the public and all stakeholders to remain vigilant in defending the sanctity of our Constitution and the rule of law, including defending the central role played by judicial independence in protecting our democracy. We take this opportunity to reassure Kenyans that the judiciary will continue to stand firm in protecting human rights, liberties, and the rule of law. Additionally, the Judicial Service Commission strongly condemns this act of intimidation and assures judges, judicial officers, and staff that the independence of the judiciary is guaranteed under the Constitution, and the Commission is resolute in defending it. That is the end of the statement, signed by me, Justice Martha Koome, Chief Justice and Chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission.
Now, religious leaders from the Gusii region have expressed their displeasure with the actions of Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli for defying court orders. The leaders reiterated that as a senior government official responsible for upholding the law and the Constitution, he should not disregard court orders, as this undermines Kenyans' confidence in the role of law enforcement. The pastor's statements come after the acting IG failed to obey a court order requiring him to appear in court, which led to his 6-month imprisonment sentence.
Is the failure to obey the court orders. If the court orders you to appear, whether you are a top cop, top police officer, top magistrate, top preacher like me, I believe we must be guided and led by the law. We cannot lead ourselves. There must be a guiding factor. What is it that guides this nation? If it is not the law, is it a banana nation? Kenya is not. Kenya is a nation guided by law.
Yes.
And even the members of parliament, if it is a court issue, we want you to obey the courts. I understand that one top officer summoned 7 times, and every time he tells us that he's busy. What business does he have that causes him to disobey the law by which he protects? Because police are enforcers of law. Now, if you are an enforcer of law and you don't respect the law, then we are wondering, what are you enforcing?
Chief Justice Martha Koome has expressed concern over the judiciary's ability to deliver services fully following the reduction of its budget for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Speaking at a meeting with ambassadors and representatives of foreign nations, the Chief Justice said the budget cut has slowed down the judiciary's efficiency in delivering its services to Kenyans. The judiciary was allocated 21.6 billion shillings, far short of the 44.9 billion it had requested.
We are in a state where judges are being threatened, they are being stalked, their security is being withdrawn, and that keeps me awake. The other thing that keeps me awake, you have heard of budgetary cuts. Now, when you hear the ICT budget is cut to zero, our servers are getting old and tired because of too many cases being filed, and we cannot be able to renew those servers. That, dear friends, keeps me awake at night.
For evidence that the current budget shortfalls have placed significant constraints on the judiciary's ability to achieve its strategic goals.
National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has urged Chief Justice Martha Koome to expedite the legal process, delaying the appointment of commissioners to the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Wetangula raised concerns about the upcoming by-elections in various regions, stressing the importance of having IEBC commissioners in place, especially since several constituencies and wards currently have vacant positions. He also emphasized the need for a unified fund to assist students from disadvantaged communities in accessing educational financial support, noting that many are struggling to secure aid. The Speaker was joined by representatives from different wards who pledged their cooperation in driving development initiatives. All right, elsewhere, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who was once President Ruto's closest ally, continues to face significant political challenges in recent months. A section of youth from Eastern Mount Kenya region have announced their support for the Interior CS, that is Kithure Kindiki, as the spokesperson for the Mount Kenya region in President William Ruto's government. The youth from Embu, Tharaka Nithi and Meru counties stated that Kindiki is the right person to push the region's agenda in government.
Tukiangalia kwa hiyo cabinet, yule mtu ambaye anaweza ongelelea mambo yetu sababu anaijua kwa undani kabisa, tunasema sisi tuna support Professor Kindiki aweze kuweza kupeleka agenda yetu kwa meza ya serikali. Ndio mwanzo ya ngoma. Tunataka Mount Kenya is equally respected as its own block, because we have similar problems in Embu, similar problems in Tharaka Nithi County and similar problems in Meru County. Wakati tunaongea mambo ya kusema kuna mlima gani tunaongea wakati hile sisi pande yetu yote watoto wetu wakisoma railway line wanasikia sikiwa stories, they can only go to Central ama the west of that mountain, huko ndio wataenda kupata railway.
Many young people in this region as well as others across the country have long felt marginalized from key policy decisions and disconnected from the leaders entrusted with shaping our nation's future.
Young leaders of the Mount Kenya East region, we acknowledge the recent political discourse by our elected representatives advocating for Mount Kenya East to emerge as an independent political bloc. We believe the time has come for our region to chart its own political course, and the youth are best positioned to assist our leaders and community in defining this future. National representation, to effectively navigate this future, we need a local point, we need a focal point, a leader who can bridge the gap between our region and the national government. This leader must have a national presence, understand challenges we face, and work to address them at the national level. We align ourselves with the vision and leadership of Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki.
We believe that Professor Kindiki is uniquely positioned to lead the efforts in our region to combat this issue, working with other like-minded leaders across the country. We call on all leaders to harness the skills and talents of our young people by empowering them to take charge of our country's economic abilities.
Now, at the same time, Kirinyaga County Governor Anne Waiguru criticized Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, arguing that he is incapable of leading the Mount Kenya region. Speaking in Kibimbi, Mwea, Waiguru added that the central region has many capable leaders who can drive development and improve prosperity.
Nilikuwa nimetumwa na Mheshimiwa Rais hakuwa ameweza kuja kule Baricho na alinipatia message yake, simuliona nilifikisha. Tukagabu pia Kikuyuni viongozi wako. Kama ni viongozi wanatafutwa wa kutoka Central Kenya, viongozi wako. Na kiongozi asije akafikiria yeye tu peke yake ndio anaweza ongoza watu wa Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya iko na options, Central Kenya iko na options, watu wanaweza jitolea, bora sisi tuwe ndani ya serikali, si ndio? Na mimi sana napenda kuongea maneno ya kazi. Watu wa Kirinyaga walinichagua kwa sababu kampeni yangu nilisema kazi ifanye nini? Kazi iliongea ama haijaongea? Bado kazi inaongea ama haiongei? Watu wa Kirinyaga ni watu werevu sana. Mimi Mheshimiwa Rais ameniambia, maliza hizi hospitali ambazo unatengeneza, hizi za level 4. Ukimaliza kuja kwangu, mimi equipment zote nitatoa kwa serikali kuu. Alafu mimi nijitoe kwa serikali kuu kweli?
Meanwhile, elders of the Agikuyu community's Kiama group from Kiambu County have joined other leaders from the Mount Kenya region in condemning certain politicians who are contributing to the divisions in the region. The elders criticized members of parliament who have been coerced into disliking the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, saying that such actions are deepening rifts in the Mount Kenya region and calling on them to avoid divisive politics.
Sema wazee wa Kiama hawaingii sana kwa siasa, lakini kama iko makosa tukiwa wazee wa chama lazima tuseme, kwa sababu hawa wengine tumechukua ni watoto yetu. Kama wametoka kwa njia, tukiwa wazee lazima tuwaambie mmetoka, kwa sababu sisi tulichagua MPs, tulichagua MCAs, tulichagua governors. Sasa hii uchaguzi mwingine wanasema ati iko Kidiki, iko anaitwa Gachagua, hiyo sio yetu. Sisi tunafuata ile serikali iliingia, ile serikali iko ndio tunafuatilia. Hiyo maneno ingine sio yetu. Ati Kidiki tunajua alipewa kazi na president, afanye kazi yake. Kama ni deputy president afanye kazi yake. Sisi kama wazee hatuwezi kuja hapa tuseme tunafuatilia pande hii sijui Kidiki ile ingine. Sisi tunafuatilia ile serikali iko na ile mudhegi kama hii. Na ni mtu mmoja tu kwa hii nchi ako na mudhegi. Tusiambiwe ati iko watu wawili ama watatu wako na baton ya kuongoza nchi. Yule alipatiwa na tukashuhudia, ndio tunafuata.
Ukienda kwa wrestling ukiona mtu ameanguka na amerushiwa kitambaa ya white, ni mzuri kuachana yeye, sababu si mzuri na ni mtu wenu. Hata watu waone haya kushinda mnaongelelea mtu wenu kila wakati. Hata makabila hizi zingine zinatuangalia tu wa Kikuyu, zinashindwa sasa hawa, na ndio sisi huwa tunafuata, ndio tunasemanga hao ndio welevu, wajinga kabisa. Kwa hivyo tulikuwa wajinga wa mwisho. Tuombe Mungu atupe hekima na tukue na hiyo njia ya mwongozo wa kuongoza watu wetu, na tuache tamaa. Tukiacha tamaa mambo yote itakuwa sawa. Lakini tuwaambie Mungu, hii tamu inaisha, na mjue Wajiko atafanya kwa vile ameona umemfanyia kazi. Kwa hivyo kuna wale wataenda nyumbani na kuna wale watabaki.
Teachers from Meru County who are part of the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, have expressed their disappointment with the union officials at both county and national levels. Speaking in Meru town, the teachers criticized the officials for delays in promotions and the misuse of school sponsorship funds.
We want to declare that we have no confidence in the current KUPPET leadership. They have let us down, and what we demand is immediate resignation. Yes. Because they are not serving the interests of teachers. Because of the following issues. One, they let the JSS teachers down. When the JSS teachers went for demonstrations, Kuppet officials abandoned them, only to later come on a holiday and on a Saturday evening and declare that the JSS strike and ended. And that is how the dream of JSS teachers was killed.
Security agencies have assured residents in banditry-prone areas of their safety as more than 10 schools are scheduled to reopen in the region. The leaders called for unity as they aim to achieve good overall performance in national exams. They also urged local chiefs to conduct relocation exercises to ensure that all school-age-going children are enrolled in schools.
Kuna mapendekezo ya kwamba zile mashule za boda ile ambayo ilifungwa ifanyiwe affirmative action kwa kwamba mapendekezo ya kupatiwa full scholarship wale ambao watarudi katika ile mashule. Hiyo ni kitu tutaenda kuangalia katika program yetu kama tuna uwezo hiyo kifedha, na tunaweza sema kwamba tutafacilitate. Na kulikuwa mapendekezo pia kwamba pale tuchanganye watoto kutoka Elgeyo Marakwet na kutoka ya West Pokot nusu kwa nusu na wote wapewe scholarship ndio zile mashule siweze kufunguliwa. Pia tumekubaliana hapa kwamba tuweze kufanya kazi kwa ushirikiano kama viongozi wa sehemu hii, kwamba tuweze kushirikiana tufanye kazi kwa pamoja for the overall general results na good performance ya sub-county yetu.
We are going to enforce the law. Kuna ile free primary education na tunajua kwamba kuna ile Basic Education Act, na tumesema hapa hakuna cha kuhurumia. Tumesema kila chifu lazima afanye mob up kwake kuhakikisha kwamba watoto ambao wametimu hiyo umri ya kwenda shule waende shule. That we are not going to compromise. Number 2, tumekubaliana kwamba tuongeze washikadau ambao wanafadhili elimu kwa mashule yetu ili watoto wengi waweze kusaidiwa in terms of bursary, na pia families ama households ile wanatoka waweze kupatiwa usaidizi ya vyakula, basic needs, ili hao watoto waweze kukua retained in schools.
Na natoa wito tu kwa kila mmoja ambaye alikuja leo atekeleze jambo. Kila kiongozi hawe na jukumu la kufanya katika eneo lake ili tupate kuendelea na kufanya mambo yetu yaende mbele.
Students at Buhalalire Secondary School in Busia County have a reason to smile after receiving mattresses from well-wishers following a fire that destroyed a dormitory last week. No injuries were reported, although more than 90 beds were burnt. According to Busia County Education Director James Ekalio, the school administration suspects one of the students may have been involved in the fire, but no evidence has been found. The school principal, David Bukati, has requested more assistance as the school recovers.
Right now, we are wametufaidi pakubwa kwa vile wamekuja kutufariji na kutupa msaada kutokana na mkasa ambao tulikuwa nao wa moto ambao ungusha bidhaa za wanafunzi 170. Bila shaka wanafunzi wote katika bweni hilo walipoteza bidhaa zao zote. Bila shaka pia bado tunahitaji misaada mingine kwa sababu vitanda pia viliungua, vitanda zaidi ya 90.
Ambao Afrika ambao tunapendana, tunasema mkasa ukipatikana lazima tusaidiane. Na iwapo muhisani wote yako pale nje, tunaomba kuwa kile chochote unacho kuja usaidia watoto. Angalau hata ukileta sabuni, angalau hata ukileta kitabu kimoja, angalau hata ukileta tu uniform, itaweza kusaidia wanafunzi kwa sababu wameathirika hawana chochote. Na pia ningeenda kuhimiza wazazi, najua mambo ni magumu, lakini mjikaze, huu ni muhula wa 3. Msiweze kuisha nguvu tafadhali. Njooni tu ile kidogo unaleta, tutasaidiana na pia tunasukuma pia. Bado mimi ninaamini kaka.
Tulipokaa chini na ndugu yangu Masinde, tukaona ni vyema tujitahidi tuseme ya kwamba si ya kwamba tuna wingi sana ama tulikuwa na pesa nyingi, lakini tuliambiana hapana, lazima tuweze kusimama pamoja na watoto wetu ambayo ni wa Buhalalire. Na kama kiongozi katika area hii ya Butla, ningetaka sana kuwaomba viongozi wetu ambao wamechaguliwa na hata wale ambao wameweza kuwa nominated, let's learn to stand with our people.
All right, following that good news from Buhalalire Secondary School, allow us to take a quick breather. But when we come back, we'll be coming back with extensive newspaper review. I do have the Standard, the Daily Nation, and the Star. Interesting headlines, so keep it EBN TV. We'll be back shortly. All right, let's take a look at the newspapers this morning, and that is on the Standard newspaper that speaks of defense of justice. Defense of justice. The Chief Justice yesterday came out guns blazing, saying police were out to intimidate judges after the courts found their boss guilty of contempt and sentenced him. While being just for the police is what is required of them, the CJ said they are turning rogue. Now, Chief Justice Martha Koome says, and I quote, "The act of withdrawing the security of a sitting judge following a judicial decision that displeased certain authorities is deeply concerning. The deliberate and punitive measure represents a direct assault on judicial independence." And it did, or indeed it does. Just looking at the response that this particular issue has elicited from Kenyans. Also, Mwaura Kabata, who's the Law Society of Kenya Vice President, says judicial independence is a cornerstone of justice for all Kenyans. The National Police Service, as a key state actor, has a constitutional obligation to comply with the law. So, what a picture on the pages of the Standard this morning that now pits you know, the defense of justice versus the security aspect of it. And that is a story that is on page 4 of the Standard newspaper, as judiciary and lawyers condemn judges' security detail withdrawal. Now, while addressing the press yesterday at the Supreme Court buildings, the CJ said the move was an intimidation tactic, adding that the judicial independence is protected by the Constitution. Koome said withdrawal of Mugambi's security sends the wrong message to the judiciary and to the public that those entrusted with upholding justice and safeguarding the rights of Kenyans can be intimidated, bullied, or retaliated against for their rulings. Now, Koome said such actions erode public trust in the independence of the courts while undermining foundations of Kenya's constitutional democracy. Now, perhaps a background information, the Acting Inspector General of Police, Gilbert Masengeli, who, by the way, took reins of power about a month ago following the resignation of former IG Japheth Koome, had been summoned to court to explain the disappearance of 3 men from Kitengela. This comes on the backdrop of Gen Z protests, which were witnessed in the country for the better part of June and July. Now, according to eyewitnesses in the case, they say the 3 men were abducted by persons who identified themselves as police. On the other hand, police, the police inspector general was called in now to explain, one, to the families of the victims about whether or not it was police officers who had been at the center of the abductions, and 2, if at least it's not police officers, then what have they done so far to be able to get the whereabouts of these 3 gentlemen. And so the IG was summoned not once, not twice, but 7 times, to which he failed to appear before Justice Lawrence Mugambi, and there were instances to which the other deputy IG of police, that is Eliud Lagat, from the Kenya Prison Service, was, in court on the behalf, but Justice Lawrence Mugambi could not have that. And so last Friday is when he made that ruling and sentenced the IG to 6 months in prison, but gave him 7 days to appear before the court, to which he will not serve the sentence. Well, today is Tuesday, and the IG has not appeared before the court. So it's a question of now what happens next. Is it, will the courts be able to enforce this particular sentence? And if in enforcing it, then how do they enforce it? If, the institution that is mandated to enforce is led by somebody who is not, following the rule of law. So it's a complex and ironical position that puts the IG, against the law, being a person that leads an institution that is required to enforce the law. So quite ironical and such a very conspicuous position to be in. And so police spokesperson Resila Onyango said that she would find out what happened and get back, describing the issue as a human resource matter. Now, when asked what the JSC was planning to do other than issue statements condemning the act, Koome said they were appealing to the police bosses to reinstate Justice Mugambi's security. And she stated that security is a tool of trade for the judges and not favors to extend it to them, because they are constitutionally granted the security. The assigning and reassigning of officers to protect VIPs is done by the commandant of the SGB VIP unit, Lazarus Opicho. Now, however, Opicho cannot withdraw the security detail of a VIP without the knowledge of his superiors. And, the Standard, tried to reach out for a comment from Masengeli, but he neither picked calls nor replied to text messages. Now, the Law Society of Kenya have called for the immediate reinstatement of security detail of Justice Lawrence Mugambi, and that happened in a separate press briefing that was done by the LSK. So, defense of justice, that is the headline on the Standard this morning. Also, no room for error for varsity fees, new team. A team to review the new university funding model has weeks to right the wrongs in the sector that is at crossroads. The university funding model continues to be a dilemma to stakeholders, especially the learners themselves. We've seen of cases to which students have been placed in the wrong bands. Remember, you have band 1 to band 5. Band 1 being the extremely vulnerable learners, while band 5, the less vulnerable, category of learners. And so President William Ruto has appointed a team that will lead the review of the new university funding model that has faced stiff opposition from students, parents, and the public. In a Gazette notice, Ruto stated that the team will be divided into 4 subcommittees that shall be tasked with different roles, including the review of new funding model for universities and also technical, vocational education and training institutions. It will also have a team that will focus on appeals arising from the categorization of students in various bands for allocation of scholarships and loans. But of course, the million-dollar question is, even if this particular team has been set up by the head of state, does it bar any, I'd say learner from being able to join these particular institutions having been placed in bands? Well, technically it does not, because, we still have students that are set to report to their various, institutions of higher learning for this particular month of September, for the September intake. So one or the other, they'll still be expected in school, because we had the first batch of this particular funding model who have joined campus already. So, it doesn't really bar any learner from going to school or from any school, picking up a particular learner, but perhaps there just will be recommendations which will be made to change this particular funding model. So we'll be looking to see what this team does, this new committee that has been put up in place and gazetted by the head of state. As well as blame fake news, Ruto says of protests. Speaking to a German news outlet, the president said it was misinformation that fanned the Gen Z demos, saying they stopped once it was corrected. As well as Mbadi pushed on cut county funds, the Treasury Cabinet Secretary was at pains to explain to senators why he had reduced the budget for devolved units by 20 billion shillings. The senators said the units are starved of cash and cuts will worsen the matter. So yet again, funding to the devolved units, that is the county governments, remains to be a painstaking issue for the governors. And the new CS for Treasury Mbadi was at pains to explain why the counties will get 20 billion shillings less. Now, the Senate Majority Whip Boni Khalwale said the government should cut the huge expenditure allocated to the constitutional offices or to unconstitutional offices such as those of the First Lady, the spouse of the Deputy President, and the Prime Cabinet Secretary. On the other hand, Migori Senator Eddie Okech asked Mbadi to state the scientific explanation as to why the Treasury was taking away 20 billion shillings from counties, and further urged him to state the loopholes causing fiscal constraints. Now, Kisii Senator Richard Onyonka said the decision to allocate counties more funds were arrived at following some consultations, with the figure being less than what the Senate and the Council of Governors had arrived at, and it will be unfair to give a lesser amount than what they got before. And so that is the headline on the Standard newspaper. Now to the Daily Nation, which speaks more or less of the same thing that is on the headline. Rogue police boss, that is the headline on the Daily Nation this morning. Now, they've also quoted the Chief Justice Martha Koome, and who says that this deliberate and punitive measure represents a direct assault on judicial independence, an affront to the rule of law, and violation of the principles enshrined in our Constitution. The police chief has been ignoring court summons over 3 missing men. So, Acting Inspector General Gilbert Masengeli has come under attack for his brazen tit-for-tat response, in which the top policeman withdrew the security of a judge who failed him or jailed him for contempt of court. Martha Koome, the Chief Justice, the judiciary, and senior lawyers have condemned the latest affront to the independence of the judiciary. And that is a story that is on page 2, as it reads, Police Boss takes on Judge in Rome. So the relationship between the executive and the judiciary plunged to a new low yesterday after the Chief Justice protested police had withdrawn the security of the judge, that is Justice Lawrence Mugambi. There has been a lull in the storm between the two arms of government that escalated in January when President Ruto accused the courts of being corrupt, angry at judicial orders that had blocked key policies of his government. At the time, Chief Justice Martha Koome had warned that the threats and declarations against the judiciary were an angry assault against the Constitution, the rule of law, and can lead to chaos and anarchy. After weeks of a bitter row, a meeting at State House between the warring parties led to an uneasy ceasefire, which, however, has been breached by the latest attack. The CJ revealed that the National Police Service has withdrawn security detail assigned to Justice Lawrence Mugambi in a move seen as a retaliation after the High Court judge sentenced Masengeli to 6 months in prison. Last week, the judge was also summoned senior administration police officer Lazarus Opicho to court for spying on him ahead of the hearing of the case in which Masengeli was required to appear in court. Opicho appeared in court on Friday and apologized over his conduct, but his boss, Masengeli, was a no-show. So senior lawyers have also condemned this particular latest, what they call brazen attack of the judiciary, as the rogue police boss remains in office and is nowhere to be seen, at least not anywhere near the corridors of court. Now, 634 billion shillings Adani power lines deal signals costly electricity. 634 billion Adani power lines deal signals costly electricity. Now, India's Adani Group will seek 634 billion shillings from Kenyans over the next 30 years for building high voltage power transmission lines, setting the stage for an increase in electricity prices. The conglomerate, through its subsidiary Adani Enterprises or Adani Energy Solutions Limited, And the African Development Bank has been awarded a public-private partnership concession to buy power transmission lines for 167 billion shillings. It will spend 95 billion on capital expenditure and expects to generate a revenue of 634 billion in 30 years, or at least 21.2 billion shillings annually. This expenditure excludes other expenses like debt, salaries, and maintenance costs. Now, isn't it interesting that ever since we began speaking about the JKIA Adani deal, well, we're now speaking of the Adani deal as well in terms of energy deal in the country, because this is a separate plan as well. It's not anywhere near to the JKIA deal. This is a separate deal, a separate public-private partnership deal for that matter, to which the state, is looking to get somebody that can come in and, help with the electricity transmissions in the country. So, besides Adani, the Kenya government, through the KETRACO, Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, a state agency, has awarded that PPP to Africa 50, an infrastructure investment offshoot of the African Development Bank, to build the new transmission lines. The firms are expected to recoup the investments through a new charge in households' monthly electricity bills. This is what, what one source at KETRACO said, which is behind the contract. So, essentially, if this deal goes through to the end, it may signal a new, a costly power price for you as a consumer, because you'll have to pay more for the cost of electricity. Now, this looks to put upward pressure on inflation or the cost of living measure in a country where the cost of power has jumped the most over the past 5 years when compared to core goods. So this is a public-private partnership deal, what we call PPP, where the Indian firm, through its subsidiary Adani Energy Solutions Limited and a unit of the African Development Bank, have been awarded a PPP concession to build the power transmission lines for a cost of $1.3 billion. It will spend 95 billion shillings on capital expenditure, and it expects to generate revenue of at least 634 billion shillings in 30 years. That is equivalent to 21.2 billion shillings annually. This includes debts, maintenance costs, and salaries. So that is something that will also be interesting to watch within the next coming days. So fallout as well over Harambee for Raila AUC campaigns. Fallout over Harambee for Raila AUC campaigns. That is also the headline on top of the Daily Nation this morning. Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary distances the Odinga campaign secretariat from the fundraising dinner. Now, the government's decision to distance itself from this fundraising dinner organized by a lobby in support of Raila Odinga has exposed the lack of coordination in the campaigns. The move has put activists of the lobby, Friends of Baba, that is FOBA, Friends of Baba Africa, founded by Odinga's nephew Jaoko Oburu, in sharp focus. According to Oburu, FOBA is led by former East African Legislative Member of Assembly Mumbi Ngaru as the global chair, while Winnie Mandela, the president of the Pan-African Movement, Africa and Diaspora, is the executive director. Concerns had been raised about a fundraising dinner that had been planned for tomorrow to help raise funds for Odinga's campaign, raising questions on the government's commitment to his candidacy. So that is the headline on the Daily Nation. Now, finally, to the Star newspaper that speaks of how 14 governors grew on revenue. How 14 governors grew their own revenue. Tax cheats beware. Leading the pack is Homa Bay's Gladys Wanga with a 716% increase of on-source revenue. And the figures tell the story right there, because Homa Bay County recorded one of the highest, on-source revenue figure in 2024. Now, Governor Johnson Sakaja has grown Nairobi's revenue from 9.2 billion to 12.5 billion. That's an increase with about 3 billion shillings. But listen to this now. Looking at the numbers on top of the Star, Homa Bay County, led by Governor Gladys Wanga, has increased its on-source revenue from 146 million in 2022 to 1.2 billion in 2024. Now, this is Homa Bay County. It's not a county that has got a city inside it, but it's a county in one of the Nyanza regions. And so from 146 million to 1.2 billion, that's a 716% increase. Garissa is at 65.62 million as of 2022, 248 million as of 2024. Narok, through Patrick Ntutu, 1.3 billion in 2022, 4.7 billion in 2024. Bungoma County under Kenneth Lusaka, 368 million in 2022, 1.12 billion in 2024. Simba Arati of Kisii has managed to increase that revenue from 404 million in 2022 to 1.1 billion in 2024. Abdi Guyo has increased that revenue from 107 in 2022 to 285 million in 2024. Turkana Governor Jeremiah Lomorukai, 204 million in 2022, doubled that to about 530 in 2024. Kajiado Governor Joseph Olelenko has increased that from 527 in 2022 to 1 billion in 2024. So that is the latest report on the state of the counties, as 14 county chiefs stand round lagging revenue collections. Also, Meru County, by the way, under Kawira Mwangaza, has increased its on-source revenue from 385 million in 2022 to 961 million in 2024. So those are some of the county governors and the figures of just how much they have managed to increase as their revenue. And that is through a report by the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango. Now, also, the Star top of the page speaks of a tale of a father living in grief after son killed in protest, delayed justice. A father mourns the son who died in protest. To murder mystery, where a family planned burial after cops release Kware body. Police have handed over the body of a woman dumped in Kware to her Kakamega family. Brenda Shatuma's body was recovered at the dump site in July. She was 24 years of age. Her father, Isaac Shatuma, and mother gave DNA samples for analysis on matching, but complained that police were dragging their feet to give them the body. But they finally get that body and start planning for burial. So that is the headline on the Star. How 14 governors grew on revenue. The Daily Nation speaks of rogue police boss, while the Star speaks of defense of justice. All right, so that is where we wrap it up this morning. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you're up to date with what is making headlines across the country and across the newspapers in the nation this morning. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. Have a blessed Tuesday.